Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, and it's time to go over the YieldMax distributions for the Group B distributions from YieldMax ETF, as well as Roundhill, which we'll get to the end of the video. But firstly, YieldMax ETF, they posted their tweet in the morning, as usual, 6:55 in the morning, and as well as their page that they put up all the time. So starting off with the first one, GBTY, which will not be paying us this week. That is their new weekly payer ETF, and it's not paying this week. Don't know why, but I guess they decided to skip out on this week. LFGY paid us $62.94 for this week, which is pretty good for LFGY, their new weekly paying ETF as well. That focuses, as you can see, on crypto and the crypto tech space. We have YMAX, which is actually the only ETF we own for this Group B distribution month or week, and that paid us $14.69. We'll get into that after in a second. And why that's a little bit low for my standards, why I think YMAX is trending a little bit lower than what I would want it to. YMAG is at $18.98 for this week. NVDY is at $82.94 for this week. DIPS is at $50.26 for this week. Phoebe is at $63.90. GDXY is at $59.37. Babo is at $46.93. And JPMO actually came in surprisingly high at $69.29. MRNY, which is actually what people are trying to get out of YieldMax or YMAX, is MRNY, paid $27.30, and the value of its ETF and the NAV is actually going down quite a lot. So people are trying to get rid of this out of the YMAX fund. It's been dropping the fund's value a lot, a decent amount. And then PLTY and the new Palantir strategy ETF, option income strategy ETF, is the new one for this month, and that paid us $2.98 and $98.26, which is very, very high. Of course, Palantir has a high volatility and has been trending upwards a lot recently. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep it stable with this. They should have opened this one honestly earlier. Because then they would be able to capture some of Palantir's growth as well as the volatility and the distributions that they could have provided, but it's fine. They opened it at the time they did. I believe it was a little bit too late, but they know better. So $2.98.26 from Palantir or the PLTY, and then Morrow, which paid $2.01 of course, is trades on Morrow, which is a mining company for cryptocurrency, and they made it into Morrow. So focusing in on the one fund I do own for Group B distributions, and that is YMAX. YMAX did have a low distribution for this week once again. If we go ahead and take a look at last week's distribution, let's go ahead and zoom in as well. So comparative to last week's distributions, last week YMAX earned the $17.20. The week prior earned $11.18 and $13.95. And then, of course, $18.07 for the first week of January. Altogether, it came out to $60.40 when it comes to the total distribution. And if we look at the previous month of December, that it was $80.49, and the month prior was $81.35. Or actually, that's not the previous month. November, $74.10. Then we had $81.35 in October. So as you can see, at the most part, YMAX was able to stay around the 70 and 87 mark, mostly in the 87 mark, which means it was paying roughly 20 cents per week, assuming that there's 4 weeks. And then when there was 5 weeks, of course, we did have some lows as well, like in December when we had $12.26 and $13.90 on week 3 and week 4 of December. But of course, they were made up for week 5 with $24.48 and week 1 with $30.56. But looking once again at the dividends for this week, it came out at $14.69, and we did increase our share count from 509 to 537 and 45.15. That did give us a weekly decline of negative 9.9% because the amount we earned was $78.95 compared to the $87.63 from the week prior. We did beat week 3 of YMAX payments for this month of $56.96 and $71.07 of week 2. But the reason we did beat it was because we did increase share count, and if we didn't increase share count, we still would have beat week 2 and week 3. We would have lost to week 1 and week 4. But with the increase of share count, we were able to come close to week 4 payments as well as week 1 payments. Actually, no, we wouldn't have been close to week 1. We're not close to week 1. We're still $10 off from that. But yeah, we're down negative 9.9%. And since this is the end of the month, the last weekly payment of the month for the weekly pairs of YieldMax and all the weekly monthly pairs of YieldMax, we can see how much we had in monthly growth, and we did not have any monthly growth compared to last month. We actually had a negative 3.3% decline, negative 3.33% decline compared to last month, where we earned $316.63. But we did beat the month prior, which we earned $274.84. But we did also have 4 weeks of trading, or 4 weeks of income for November. So therefore, this is a little bit biased, having 5 weeks of trading. If we didn't have this last $78.95, we would have lost to November. Due to the 5th week and the 5th payment that we had from YieldMax, we actually won. We beat November. I personally beat November. And the only week we actually had growth week over week was actually the last week prior of week 4, where we had a 53.85% growth compared to week 3. So YMAX has been trending downwards, not only in net value, and some people believe that is because of MRNY ETF that's being included into YMAX, and that's one of the issues actually that is with YMAX. It's a benefit and an issue that there's ETFs that do lower the value of the ETF, but they also do provide dividends and security in the sense of, say, some of the ETFs are up while some of them are down. YMAX is able to stay quite stable and actually track the S&P 500 quite well, and actually beat the S&P 500 as it did last year. So not only that, we also have Roundhill that announced their dividends ETF, and as you guys know, I do own Roundhill. We could go ahead and take a look at them as well. XDTE paid us a whopping $25.4857. QDTE actually paid lower this week than XDTE, which is unusual. Usually QDTE is beating XDTE, but I guess the volatility or their trades just on the QQQs were not as good as the S&P. But QDTE paid $18.80. I'm not going to go all through all the numbers. $18.80 per share. RDTE paid $21.54 per share. YBTC paid $87.96 per share. And YETH paid $3.5988 per share. And of course, that's their monthly paying ETF. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at how much that means we've earned. If we go ahead and take a look at that, we could see that for week 5, we did add another additional 7 shares, roughly 7 shares into QDTE. With the $18.80 payment, we made $42.68, still trending down 21.37% for the week compared to week 4. So we're lower than week 4, we're lower than week 3, and we're lower than week 1. The only week that we did beat with QDTE was week 2. And that is also with shares being added. As you can see, 212 to 213 to 218 to 220 and now 227. So not a great month for weekly pairs from Roundhill and from YMAX, only having 1 week of growth compared to the previous week. And now it's because there was a very low on the week prior, which is and then a very high to the week after, which is what caused the green weekly growth. So unfortunately, not a great month for weekly pairs, and as you can see, the monthly growth on QDT is even worse, of 39.79 or negative 39.79%, earning us the total of $230.32. And if we take a look at what that's being compared to, that's being compared to December, where we earned $382.50. And that was 106% growth compared to the month prior of 185.25. So we did beat November. And of course, it could be said that the high payments are due to, of course, the end of the year payments of $86.95 and $80.38, which then, of course, had a little bit of a bias and contributed to the high payers that we experienced in December. And that could be said similar to YMAX. But compared to November, we did beat November. And of course, we do have a lot more shares in this month and this week compared to November. And of course, December, like we said, it could be for tax purposes that they paid these high amount of payments, and they just gave us a lot at the end of the year. So that is it for YieldMax ETFs. That is it for Roundhill ETFs. That is how much we've earned. That is how much you guys will be earning for this week from, say, you own LFGY, YMAG, YMAX, any of the monthly payers. If you own JPMO, congratulations, you're getting a high payment of $69.29. That's very rare for JPMO. Congratulations if you own PLTY, you're getting $2.98 from that. Nvidia has been staying stable around the under $1 mark at $82.94 and around that mark. So if you own Nvidia, congratulations on that as well. But that has been it for YieldMax ETF payments for Group Distribution B. And we will be seeing you guys on Friday. We're going to be talking about more about Curve ETFs, because I do have more to say about Curve ETFs. I did just make a video last week comparing TSLY and TSLP and how they would perform in my fund personally. A lot of people said that my idea on those funds was incorrect, and I was a little bit off, but I was looking at it from a personal point of view to where how they are able to contribute to my portfolio and not how they contribute to overall portfolios in your portfolios. Everybody has their own strategies, and the strategies I run, TSLY works better for me than TSLP. But we're going to get more into that in this week on Friday, talking about overall Curve ETF strategy compared to YieldMax strategy. So I'll be seeing you guys on Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys made a lot more money than I did this week. And hopefully you guys continue to add more and more shares to then increase those dividend distributions. All right, guys. See you guys on Friday.